How great is our God. Wonderful for you to be here this afternoon, and I'm looking forward to our discussion this afternoon. As I said this morning, this is going to be a continuation from our focus this morning as we set our face toward the New Jerusalem in 2018. As iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen the face of another. You know, when it comes to this and it comes to our focus for a new year, that's a New Year's resolution. And when it comes to resolutions, my personal perspective on resolutions changed a few years ago when I set a resolution, a specific resolution. I came out and I said my whole focus was I'm going to gain weight in the coming year. I wanted to gain weight in a new year. And when I say that, obviously we think the opposite. We're going to let's lose some weight. We had the holidays and we need to lose some weight, right? I wanted to gain weight this specific year. When I say this, you'll understand what I'm saying. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They will run and not be weary. They will walk and not faint. My goal that year was to gain patience. And I'll tell you what, looking back on that year, it was one of the hardest years. I remember, it did happen to be the year that that James was born, but that's beside the point. But looking back on it, there were some specific things throughout that year that I was given an opportunity to gain patience, to gain weight. Had a lot of opportunities there. And so that changed my perspective when it comes to what we ask for. I remember my mother, she told me she prayed for patience one time, and she had twins after that prayer, shortly after that prayer. And so she said, don't ever pray for patience. I don't know what to take about that, because I'm one of those twins. But I don't know what she meant by that, But in this coming year, this has helped to mold how I want to focus in my New Year's resolution. And I wanted to mention these are two things for us this afternoon. May God's will be done in my planning, and may God's will be done in His timing. So in planning and in timing, I'm asking for God's will to be done in the coming year. So in the first place, may God's will be done in our planning. We've got some ideas for the coming year, some focuses that we have. And we're told many are the plans of a man's heart, but the Lord directs or establishes his steps. When it comes to planning, it's God's will that will be done. But that doesn't mean we just sit back and don't make plans. God will fix it. God will make it happen. We still make the plans. We still establish them. We still have a focus. We still have a resolve to look to Christ and to His kingdom. When it comes to His plan, we don't know what it is until we look back on it. So for me, looking back on that one year that I prayed for patience, I gained opportunities for that patience, and I believe that I came out thankful for that year, thankful for those opportunities to gain that, but it was not easy at the time. And so when it comes to our plans, we have grand plans, don't we? We have many plans within our heart as to what we're going to do in our lives. I remember I had some grand plans, and this was before I met Mary. I had some grand plans with a girl that I really liked, and I even told her so in a letter. You see, yeah, I pulled out the guns there with the letter. And so I wrote this letter and I hand-delivered it. I'm glad I at least hand-delivered it. I look back and shake my head at what I did there. But just gave this letter, poured my heart out in that letter to this young lady. And from that letter came another. And it didn't come from her, it came from me. And I want to read that at this time. And it is entitled, Direction Through Rejection. Direction through rejection. Rejection is tough. It turns your road from smooth to rough. It makes you do a 180, making your life all crazy. I was like 17 at the time. It can be hard and your life may seem scarred, but there's a better way in rejection. It turns you in a different direction. It may not have been what you wanted, but if rejection didn't happen, then your path would be disrupted. For God works in mysterious ways. You will have your good and bad days, but it's a part of God's plan now. And even if you don't understand, God still sent His rejected Son of Man. So don't rethink your steps just because you can. When it comes to the plans and the grand plans that we have, we think we know what is best for our lives. And we can look back on those times and we can almost laugh at ourselves and look at some of those things that, wow, if that was what happened, if that was the plan that I had in life, wow, my outcome would be completely different. And we can look at our present and we can see the true gift that it is from God. So how does our New Year's resolution fit within James chapter 4 and verse 13? If you'll turn there with me, James chapter 4 and verse 13. Again, it's good to have resolutions, but having a healthy perspective when it comes to our plans. In verse 13, it says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town, spend a year there, trade, and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring." What is tomorrow for us? It's New Year's. We don't even know if we're going to have a 2018. But we have a plan for 2018 of iron sharpens iron. That's our focus. That's our hope that 2018 will come. And we even know what a year looks like. It's 365 days, 52 weeks. We know what a year looks like because of 2017, 2016, and so on and so forth. So we can even have a picture of what 2018 will be, but we don't even know that tomorrow will come. James says, "What is your life? For you are a mist that appears, or a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes." Verse 15, he gives the greatest advice for how to establish our New Year's resolution. Instead, you ought to say, "If the Lord wills, we will live and do this or do that." As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. Anything other than this is evil. And think about who he's talking to. In James 1 and verse 1, we see it's James, a bondservant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes in the dispersion rite. He's writing to the Christians who were dispersed in Acts chapter 8. He's writing to encourage them, verse 2, to consider it pure joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. You see, they had started to find the richest people in their areas and try to prop up those rich people so that they could have a daily distribution again. They could have their needs met again because they lost all that in their persecution. And so their plans, they were being tempted away from trusting in God. Trusting if the Lord wills, we will do this or do that. So it was an arrogance in which they thought they could stand. They thought their plans could stand. But how many times we have plans? How many of us plan to go to college? How many of us plan to have a good career and all of those things? And that is wonderful to have those plans and have those focuses, but we have to recognize that it's the Lord wills. We will do this or do that. And when we see God at work in those things, we can be blessed. But how many times when our plans fall flat, then so does our faith. What is our faith in? Is our faith in the year or in the giver of the year? May our faith be in God who wills, not in ourselves. Verse 17, "So whoever knows," I love this, he gives us the definition of sin. And this seems like a strange place to find this. Whoever knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. We can know all day long that we're not supposed to, we don't know that tomorrow will come, but we assume it will. And we can carry about our lives in the assumption that tomorrow is going to come, and it's just going to. And that's what James is saying. It's an arrogance. It's a boasting. Because we don't have command of the sun coming up in the morning. We don't have command of the sun setting in the morning. Whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, to him it is sin. What is he saying in relation to verse 15? If the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. Anything else is sin, is what he's explaining. May we live with the Lord's will in mind. And so when it comes to God's plan, may that be our focus with God's planning in the new year. But may God's will be done, not mine, in timing in 2018. Will we as a congregation, will we focus on God's plans in the new year? And will we focus on God's timing in the new year? And recognizing that again, many are the plans of a man's heart, but the Lord directs his steps. The steps are the timing for those plans. The second verse to that little poem I scribbled says, there is a reason everything happens to you. And I took that from Romans 8:28, that all things work together for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. God can take all things that happen, all things we do and all things that happen, and He can turn it for His good. So there's a reason everything happens to you. God gives trials to perfect, establish, strengthen, and settle you, from 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 10. So when rejection comes, try to find the good in it. Just trust me, it's there, even if you can't see it. God has something planned for everyone's life. He knows your future college, especially your husband or wife. For God works in mysterious ways. You will have your good and bad days. But it's a part of God's plan, and even if you don't understand, God still sent His rejected Son of Man. So don't rethink your steps just because you can. You know, you can tell where I was when I wrote that. It was based upon rejection from an initial letter that I wrote. And when I look at my life, and I look at, I didn't mean to rhyme, my wife. It's a rhyme. I do it all the time. When I look at what I had in mind for my life, I didn't even understand. When it comes to what God has in store for us, God knows best. And in the midst of those times, we don't recognize it. Isaiah 40 and verse 28, if you'll turn there. Isaiah 40 and verse 28. He says, have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the Creator of the ends of the earth. He does not faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might He increases strength. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall fall exhausted. Think about how limited we are on our own. No matter how strong somebody is, they're still going to be able to faint. They're still going to faint and be weary. Young men will fall exhausted. We recognize that God will never faint. He will never be weary. When it comes to His timing, God is. That's why He said to Moses, I am that I am. His very name, His very definition is, not was. He was and is to come. He is perfection. We are imperfection. We have a past tense. God does not. He just is. So, when it comes to God's timing, He is sovereign, not us. We are limited, are we not? In the timing in which we have and the things that we do, we are limited. But we recognize that when it comes to God's timing, He's the one that we can rely on. And so, yes, we're going to have plans in the coming year, but may we recognize that it is God's will that will stand, and it is God's timing that will happen. Because sometimes when the timing and the planning doesn't go as we set it, discouragement can set in. Worry can set in. Anxiety over, oh, well, what are we going to do? It is in God's hands. If we're willing to set our face toward the New Jerusalem, if we are willing to deny ourselves, take up our cross daily, and follow after Jesus, then 2018 is going to be a wonderful blessing for all of us as we strive to take each and every day in reliance upon Him. If we find God's purpose in the time He's given us now, our strength doesn't have to be in our youth. Our strength doesn't have to be in something that is limited. But they who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Maybe 2017 brought anxiety. Maybe 2017 brought weariness. Maybe 2016 and 15. And some of the issues that we've all struggled with have brought us pain and discomfort. If we wait for the Lord, we will renew our strength. Can you see yourself having a renewed strength in 2018? A renewed zeal where once maybe you were burned out. A renewed vigor. A renewed resolve to follow the Lord. They who wait for the Lord will renew their strength, and they shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. The third verse of that little poem says, don't get bogged down with the problem in reality, or the problems in reality. When rejection comes, don't succumb to insanity, because it's going to happen. Your daily plans will be flattened if they're not in accordance with God's will. So if you don't get your way, be not ill. Listen to what this message has instilled. Everything that happens will, in God's will, be fulfilled. For God works in mysterious ways. You'll have your good and bad days, but it's a part of God's plan now. And even if you don't understand, God still sent His rejected Son of Man. So don't rethink your steps just because you can. You know, when it comes to the steps that we've taken in life in 2017 and 16 and so on and so forth, or maybe the steps that others have taken against us or against those we love, we have no control over those. We have a control over our legs, our feet, and we can run and not be weary. We can walk and not faint if we rely on God in this coming year. Maybe at this time we have an invitation that is for you. If you need encouragement, if you need to maybe have a resolve that's rededicated, you can use your legs to come down this aisle and be encouraged. And that's something that's in the present. That's something that is now. But it is your choice. But this invitation is for you if you want to have the encouragement from this congregation. Maybe this afternoon you haven't obeyed the gospel. This is also an opportunity for you to come repenting of your sins and confessing that Jesus is Lord, being baptized in His name for forgiveness. We understand that when you are buried in that watery grave, you die to your old self and you rise to walk in newness of life, a new creature, a part of a new body, a new family, and you're added to the church. If you're not a part of the church, don't put it off any longer. If you have a need, won't you come while together we stand and sing the invitation.